The Shadow-Bound Alpha, a full-length fated mate story by Grace Cruz. Chapter 1. The Scent of Sacrifice. The earth was rich and cool beneath Aria's fingertips. She loved that feeling. It was solid, real. Not like the gilded lies of the kingdom she'd fled. The moss she was harvesting for her latest poultice smelled of pure, earthy peace, and that was the closest she ever let herself get to happiness now. Her world was small, bounded by the dense, chill air of the whispering hollows and the silence she maintained like a shield. She worked meticulously, every snip of her shears a deliberate act of quiet defiance against the chaos that had once been her life. 10 years. 10 years since the Alpha King's roar of rejection had nearly broken her. 10 years since she'd traded ancient magic for human herbal remedies, and the possibility of a shared throne for the solitary certainty of motherhood. She focused on the tiny, fragile leaves of the fever-damp moss, pushing the memory down where it couldn't breathe. The air held a strange, faint crackle today. Something felt unsettled, like the pressure before a sudden, brutal storm. Aria was midway through checking a struggling patch of winter bloom when she heard it. A soft rustle, too heavy for the usual deer. She straightened quickly. Her initial goal was absolute secrecy. Aria walked back toward the sunniest patch where her son, Elian, played. He wasn't playing with sticks or stones, though. Instead, he was crouched beside a wilting patch of lilies she'd been unable to revive. His small hand hovered over them, and a sliver of light, not sunlight, but a soft, shimmering, silver-flecked power, danced from his fingertips. The lilies lifted. They straightened. They bloomed in vibrant, sudden purple. A gasp caught in Aria's throat. Elian was only 10, but his power was the terrifying legacy of his father's royal bloodline, fused with her own potent Luna gift. It was supposed to be dormant for years yet. "Elian," she called, her voice carefully devoid of the panic coiling in her belly. He startled, whipping his head around. His eyes were wide, and in that moment, they were too gold, too much like his father's. Just like that, the powerful light vanished, and the lilies drooped a little, confused by the interruption. "Mom, look," he whispered, oblivious to the sheer magnitude of the magic he'd just wielded. Aria rushed over, pulling him close, her hands immediately pressing down on his silver-tipped hair. Too much power, too much risk. In the span of a breath, she calmed her own racing pulse, masking the terrifying reality. "Beautiful, sweet boy," she murmured, kissing his temple. "But we don't show people our special tricks, remember? The hollows are quiet for a reason. We like being quiet." He nodded seriously, his youthful trust a precious, heavy weight in her arms. She didn't know what scared her more, the raw power inside her child, or the fact that it was the very thing that anchored him to the kingdom that wanted them dead. That's why she needed the solitude of this remote human town. Silence was survival. Soon after, they packed their meager harvest. As they reached the edge of the woods, a fleeting metallic scent, not blood but raw aggression, brushed past the trees. It was the scent of a pack-unaffiliated rogue, a smell Aria hadn't encountered in years. The tension broke only when she firmly placed her hand on the worn, protective leather pouch hanging from her belt. She was ready. Whatever it was, she would repel it. But this time, it was clear. The quiet life was fighting back. And she was ready for the next fight. Chapter 2. The Rogue's Whisper. As the wind shifted that afternoon, bringing the scent of stale oil and rain, Aria stood behind the counter of her tiny shop, the Gentle Root, serving a nervous human mother a calming tea blend. She kept her expression placid, but her instincts were screaming. The scent of the rogue wolf from the woods lingered. The bell above the door chimed, an abrupt interruption, and a man who looked too big, too sharp for this sleepy town stepped inside. He wore human clothes, but the predatory set of his jaw and the quick, assessing flick of his eyes marked him instantly. This was the rogue. "Evening," the man said, his voice a low rumble that grated on her ears. "Heard this was the place for hard-to-find remedies." I specialize in local herbs, Aria replied, folding her arms neatly, a subtle barrier of tension. If you're looking for anything beyond natural, you have the wrong shop. Truth be told, the rogue wasn't interested in herbs. He walked past the shelves of dried flowers and stopped right in front of the counter, leaning in close. His scent was aggressive, desperate. I'm looking for information, he whispered, lowering his voice conspiratorially. I hear things. Whispers about a power, an alpha whose reign is tearing itself apart. He paused, letting the silence draw out. And I hear that one of his could be hiding in the human fringe, someone with the right kind of blood. A cold weight settled in Aria's chest. Her goal? Be boring. She met his gaze without flinching. I only deal with illness and common ailments, sir. If the kingdom is falling apart, that sounds like a problem for kings, not for a humble herbalist. She made sure the word humble sounded utterly dismissive. The rogue laughed, a harsh, barking sound. Kings, yes, but they need healers, don't they? Especially when their minds are shattered. If you hear anything about a Luna healer who vanished about 10 years ago, you tell me. There's a price on her head. Or maybe, these days, a desperate plea. He left as quickly as he arrived, but his words hung in the air. Alpha King's failing health. Chaos in the kingdom. A Luna healer. That night, long after Elian was asleep, Aria descended into her hidden, soundproofed basement workroom. This was her true sanctuary. Here, surrounded by crystalline geodes and arcane symbols scratched into the stone, she was the Luna healer, not the herbalist. She performed a complicated, ancient cleansing ritual, her core strength, her Luna power, radiating from her palms, bathing her small frame in a soft, silver-blue glow. This ritual was dangerous. It drew darkness to the surface, but it was necessary to siphon the residue of pack magic left by the rogue. She performed it not for herself, but for the invisible shield around Elian. Aria felt the darkness lift, a heavy, suffocating weight draining away. The intense need for vigilance, the paranoia she lived with daily, fueled her conviction. Distrust of power was her key to survival. Just as that feeling of purity settled, a new scent hit her. It wasn't the rogue's stale aggression. This was fresh. It was elemental. It was ozone and rain and the raw, untamed musk of a purebred alpha wolf. It was Kael's scent. It was a massive, powerful wave that cut through the basement's protective herbs, stinging her eyes and making her hands tremble violently. Her Luna blood pulsed, recognizing its opposite. He's close. Too close. This wasn't a whisper. It was a siren's call. Now, she needed to run, but she knew, deep down, she was already cornered. The next beat would determine if her heart survived. Chapter 3. The King at the Door. The cedar, cold stone, and that raw dying power, Kael's scent, had ripped through the basement, clawing its way up the steps. Aria surged upward, throwing herself against the cabin door. She didn't look through the peephole. She didn't need to. Her bones remembered him. She pulled the door open, her heart hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Standing on her weathered porch, flanked by two weary, dirt-stained guards, was Kael Thornbane. His appearance was shocking. He was magnificent and terrible all at once. His royal black leather and deep emerald cloak spoke of the king he was, but his eyes, once the clear, confident gold of a predator, were now wild, edged with an unsettling silver instability. In that moment, his gaze locked onto her, holding no recognition, yet radiating a primal, desperate hunger that made the latent Luna healer energy deep in her core leap in response. He doesn't remember me, Aria thought, a cold, painful shield snapping into place. He remembers the bond. I don't know who you are, Aria said, her voice low and sterile. She pressed her spine against the doorframe, acutely aware of her son, Elian, asleep in the next room. You have the wrong address. Kael's instability spiked. He didn't move or argue with words. Instead, a guttural "grrrl" rumbled deep in his chest. He took a heavy step forward, the sound of his boot on the wood vibrating up Aria's legs. "Yours," he breathed, the word a desperate plea. "It's yours. The quiet. I need the quiet." Without warning, his eyes flashed gold, and he lunged. He wasn't attacking her. He was claiming the source of calm. Her body moved on instinct. Aria reached out, her palm flat against the sudden, overwhelming heat of his chest. She didn't consciously call upon her gift, but the raw Luna healer gift flooded her hand, a powerful, cool blue light washing over him. It was a purely defensive, calming shock designed to stop a raging beast. Just like that, Kael's massive body froze, his momentum arrested mid-lunge. The sheer primal need for her core strength had just saved her life from her own mate. Kael slumped, his head bowed, the primal force now replaced by sheer exhaustion. The crisp, cutting voice of the pack captain, a scarred man named Alaric, followed. "You stabilize him, Luna," Alaric stated, stepping past the stunned king and into her home. "Then you come back with us to the obsidian Citadel." A flare of cold fury ignited in Aria. This was the ultimate violation. "I am not going anywhere," she hissed. "And I am not Luna. I am a human herbalist." "Lies do not become you, healer," Alaric countered, sweeping his gaze across the small room. He looked right at a tiny, hand-carved wooden wolf resting on a bookshelf. As the silence stretched, a terrifying realization dawned. They knew exactly what she was. Chapter 4. The Forced Choice. Despite that deep surge of protective fury, Aria knew fighting Alaric would be pointless. He was cold, professional, and had the clear head Kael lacked. She moved to the kitchen to gather supplies, forcing distance. She spoke in sharp, clipped sentences. "He is suffering from severe psychic interference, not mere illness," she explained, carefully avoiding Alaric's eye. "It is dark magic, a powerful curse. I can only provide temporary relief here. It would be safer to leave him, let nature take its course." Alaric leaned against the counter. His voice was flat and practical. "The Alpha King is dying, Aria. His instability is causing civil war. We need the one thing that can save him. The Luna healer's touch." "And what about my life? My safety?" Aria demanded, her voice barely a whisper. Deep down, she knew the truth. Her life didn't matter to them. Only her gift. Alaric didn't miss a beat. He lowered his voice, the menace cutting through the silence. "We know the name of the man you claim to be your son's father. We also know the human laws regarding concealment and abduction across the boundary." He paused, letting his cruel words sink in. "Either you come willingly and quietly, allowing us to maintain the fiction that you are a hired healer, or we bring the king and the humans down on this town. Which option endangers your son more?" A tidal wave of maternal terror washed over her. As if the world narrowed to just that moment, Aria heard a soft, terrified sniffle from the hallway closet. Elian. He wasn't sleeping. He had witnessed everything. Her initial goal to keep his existence secret was irrevocably compromised. Her distrust of power and connection flared. This was exactly the consequence of having dared to love an Alpha King. Political power was a weapon that always, eventually, aimed for the heart. I have to go. She had to go to prevent the storm. With every heartbeat, a terrible, necessary resignation settled over her. She looked at Kael, slumped and broken, the powerful Alpha King reduced to a shell by a curse. She didn't feel love, only the crushing weight of sacrifice. I will come, Aria conceded, the word feeling like ash on her tongue. But my terms are simple. I travel separately. I see Kael only in private, and my human life remains untouched. Agreed, Alaric said instantly. The lack of negotiation confirmed her fear. He only needed her healing gift. Chapter 5. The crossing Aria spent 10 minutes alone with her son. It was the hardest time of her life. She placed the small, smooth stone amulet, a potent ward against dark magic, around Elian's neck. Maybe it was fate, But she knew this was the last free act she would take for a long time. She kissed him fiercely, telling him she would be back, promising him the certainty she couldn't give herself. She climbed into the large black war caravan provided by the pack, settling into the heavy silence of commitment. Kael was secured beside her, stabilized but unconscious, his head leaning heavily against the window. His presence was a physical weight, a constant reminder of the pain he'd inflicted and the danger he represented. As they drove, Aria watched the fog-shrouded line of pines that marked the territory boundary. The moment their eyes locked in the rearview mirror, Alaric's and hers, she felt the true weight of her decision. By the time the tires touched the new soil of the Wolf Kingdom, a violent wave of ancient, potent energy crashed over her. It was ozone and magic, and the overwhelming, intoxicating essence of 1,000 wolves. It was terrifying, and it ignited her dormant Luna blood like gasoline. A sharp gasp escaped her. She felt it, clear as day, the familiar, terrifying pull of the mate bond, stronger now that they were on pack lands. Without thinking, her hand shot out, not toward Kael, but toward the empty space where her son's amulet rested. At that exact moment, Kael's unconscious hand shot out and locked around her wrist with crushing, primal strength. His skin was feverish, his grip proprietary, demanding. Aria froze, unable to pull away. The contact sent a jolt of power through her, not healing, but connection. She saw her reflection in the dark glass of the window, a fugitive healer with a fierce, terrified gaze chained by an invisible bond to the broken king beside her. As the bond pulsed, Kael's eyes remained closed, but a single guttural sound escaped his chest, a low, painful whimper of possession and plea. He doesn't remember rejecting me. He just knows he needs me. Her resolve, her need for self-reliance, wavered under the undeniable power of his touch. Her voice trembled as she silently reaffirmed her new immediate goal. Get to the Citadel, cure Kael enough to earn her freedom and son's safety, and leave without ever being discovered. But the way his large hand devoured her wrist? That was a claim. And just like that, everything changed. She was no longer just going back to save her son. She was plunging straight into the lair of the shadow usurper, to the man who was both her greatest enemy and her only living hope. Chapter 6. The Obsidian Citadel. Kael's crushing grip had finally loosened when the caravan screeched to a halt. As if pulled by a string, Aria scrambled out, her muscles tight and screaming for freedom. The transition to the Citadel was jarring. The fortress was massive, dark stone architecture, radiating an oppressive, ancient grandeur that seemed to swallow the light. "Welcome, healer," a voice oiled with false concern drawled. Before she could move, a figure stepped forward. This was the presumed antagonist, the shadow usurper. He was an older elder, tall and impeccably dressed, with eyes that scanned Aria not for healing skill, but for weakness. He introduced himself as Lord Valerius, the king's most trusted advisor. "I am told your methods are unconventional," Lord Valerius said, his tone suggesting unconventional meant dangerous. He offered Aria his hand, but his grip was clammy. Nervousness or insincerity. Aria avoided his touch. She looked him straight in the eye. "My methods are effective. The king is suffering from a magical affliction, not a physical one. I need unrestricted access, quiet, and absolutely no interference." Her clear authority startled the surrounding hostile elders. A wave of immediate, collective dislike directed squarely at Aria. She realized instantly that the enemy wasn't just Kael's illness, but the political influence betrayal woven into the very fabric of this court. Lord Valerius smiled, a thin, chilling expression. "Of course, healer. The king's health is paramount." Moments later, Aria found herself in Kael's private quarters. The room was immense, luxurious, and utterly cold. Kael was semi-conscious, sweating heavily, his wolf scratching against the inside of his mind. In the quiet that followed, Aria didn't hesitate. She placed both hands firmly on his temples, closing her eyes. She reached out with her Luna energy, probing the damage. With every heartbeat, she felt the intrusion, a web of dark, intricate magic woven into the deepest parts of his wolf's psyche, specifically targeting his emotional and memory centers. It wasn't a curse to kill him quickly. It was a curse to make him destroy his own line. Her chest ached with the effort. When she pulled back, she knew the truth. "It is a high-level dark curse," Aria stated, primarily to the shadows, but knowing the walls had ears. "It has stolen a decade of his mind. I can heal the damage, but I must find the spell's root before it consumes him entirely." This diagnosis was her first move in the political game, establishing her authority. But the tension in the room wasn't only magical. The space between them burned. The primal bond, now unshackled in the Citadel, pulsed with undeniable life. Chapter 7. The Lingering Scent of Love. That night, Aria slipped out of her guarded room. Her goal was simple: gain knowledge of the curse's specific nature from ancient texts. The massive royal library was the only place to start. The room was a labyrinth of towering shelves. As the sky darkened outside the tall Gothic windows, casting long, eerie shadows, Aria moved with the stealth of a fugitive, running her fingers over forbidden lore and ancient history. She searched for information on memory wards and bloodline curses. While her pulse raced, she heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming toward her aisle. She flattened herself against a dark column, heart pounding. Lord Valerius's voice cut through the silence. "Are you looking for something, healer?" he asked, the question dripping with casual menace. "He's watching me. He knows I'm not just a nurse." "Researching remedies," Aria replied, her voice firm. "The king's condition requires historical context, ancient methods." Valerius stepped closer, his shadow falling over her. "Indeed, but be careful, healer. Knowledge can be dangerous, especially when it touches the old secrets of the throne." The tension broke only when Valerius finally moved on, satisfied he'd issued his warning. Aria waited until his footsteps faded completely. Still, the encounter confirmed the antagonist was alert. Aria searched a dusty shelf Valerius had paused near. She found a leather-bound book, not on history, but a personal volume labeled with Kael's royal crest. A journal. She flipped it open. The handwriting was Kael's, bold, confident. Then she found entries from 10 years ago. They weren't political. They were agonizingly personal. "She is sunshine and storm, the only one whose touch quiets the beast. My Luna. I will give up everything for her, even this crown if she asks it." Aria gasped, her breath catching. Her whole body trembled. This was Kael. Her Kael. Not the cold king who rejected her. Just like that, everything changed. The text continued. "I told her today. We are bonded. She is carrying my child. I can finally see the future. It is hers, and mine, and theirs." The next page was ripped out. A blank void where the memory of her rejection should have been. A powerful realization struck Aria. The stolen rejection. Kael's cruel words hadn't been his own. They had been the first brutal symptom of the curse, designed to inflict maximum pain and ensure her permanent disappearance. Her internal flaw, her misbelief that Kael had deliberately abandoned her, was suddenly challenged by this evidence of pure, unadulterated love. Who would do this? As the truth unraveled, she knew the only way to heal Kael was to force him to face the very betrayal he couldn't remember. Chapter 8. The Wolf's Denial. Come morning, Kael was stable but restless. He paced his quarters like a caged animal, his confusion manifesting as raw, terrifying alpha dominance. "You're doing something to me, healer," Kael growled, spinning to face Aria. His golden eyes were lucid now, but filled with suspicion. "I feel intrusion, and I feel a pull to you that makes no sense. I do not take orders, and I do not need a leash." Aria knew this was the final wall she had to break. She stepped closer, ignoring the instinctive urge to submit to his alpha command. The leash is already on you, King, she challenged, her voice low and steady. It has been there for 10 years. You call it weakness. I call it dark magic. She walked to his table and laid out the journal. You don't remember me, but I am your mate, and you don't remember rejecting me, but you did. That rejection was the curse's first victory. You have been magically compromised by a dark sorcerer for years, Kael. Your instability is not inherent. It is a weapon. Kael went silent. His shoulders tensed, his breathing quickened. He dismissed the journal with a flick of his wrist. I am the Alpha King, he said, his voice hard as iron. Pure royal bloodline power cannot be controlled by petty magic. I am not weak. You are here for a paycheck, Luna. Do your job and stop with the conspiracy theories. Kael's outright denial fueled Aria's fury. She knew he needed to accept this truth to be healed. You think this is about a paycheck? She scoffed, stepping into his personal space, challenging his height and his power. I risked anonymity and my life to be here in the den of vipers you call a kingdom. Your mind is a prison, Kael. Can't you feel the walls closing in? If you don't fight this, you will die, and that sorcerer will claim your crown. Kael's hand shot out again, but this time he didn't grab her wrist. He gently brushed a stray strand of hair from her cheek, his golden eyes searching hers, full of deep, confusing pain. Why? He whispered, his voice cracking. If I rejected you, why did you come back? Because, Aria said, her voice trembling with raw, painful honesty. Even a fool knows that darkness should never win. Without another word, Kael backed down, his alpha ego battling his wolf's primal acknowledgement of her truth. He gave a sharp, defeated nod. Fine. Treat the poison. Tell me what ancient scroll you need to find. Just fix the madness. A growl rose in her throat, a mix of victory and renewed fear. She had his cooperation. As Kael stormed out, seeking the solace of the cold corridors, Aria found the coded message slipped under her door by an unknown ally, hinting at the cure. The cure lies in finding the hidden ancient scroll of the sun and shadow. This new layer of mystery propelled her into the next dangerous stage. Chapter 9. The Broken Memory. The ancient scroll could wait. Kael's mind was a ticking clock. The complexity of the curse demanded a dangerous solution, a direct, intrusive, magical treatment on his memory centers. This was high risk, high reward. You have to trust me, Aria instructed, her voice low, amplified by the focused energy of her Luna Healer gift. She knelt beside his chair, placing her palms not just on his temples, but tracing the invisible, cursed scars along his jawline. Kael's muscles were ropes beneath his tunic. The bond pulsed between them, their raw, untamed attraction a dangerous undercurrent to the clinical necessity of the healing. If this is how you kill me, healer, he growled, be quick about it. I'm here to save you, not kill you, Aria countered, pushing her magic deeper. She needed to break through the block and access the truth of his past. The truth was the only true antidote. The connection was immediate and agonizing. With every heartbeat, Aria saw flashes, her own face, laughing in the moonlight, the taste of ancient pack wine, a furious golden wolf roaring in a snowy courtyard. It was a chaotic storm of joy and betrayal. A surge of raw, agonizing pain ripped through Kael. He arched back, screaming, not in pain, but in sheer, violated confusion. His body went rigid, his power spiking uncontrollably. His eyes blazed gold, then silver, then black. A violent, splintered flash in Aria's mind. The moment of their child's birth, followed instantly by the icy shock of Kael's remembered rejection. The original rejection, before the curse took hold. A gasp escaped her. The curse had poisoned his memory immediately after the greatest joy. Kael collapsed, falling from the chair in a dead weight. His breathing was shallow, his body shuddering with residual power that was now worse than before. She had broken through, but she hadn't broken the curse. She had just broken Kael. A frantic energy seized her. Lord Valerius's familiar, chillingly calm voice sounded from the doorway. "Trouble, healer? I trust the king is not too inconvenient." Aria looked up, her expression a mask of cold fury. The antagonist was here, offering help. A veiled attempt to push Kael over the edge. Her heart hammered with a desperate fear that was rapidly turning into cold, sharp resolution. Chapter 10. The Bloodbound Revelation. Midpoint Shift. Aria managed to stabilize Kael enough for the night, then raced back to the library. She used the coded ally's message to find a small, concealed alcove, a space for forbidden, heretical texts on royal magic. A wave of dizzying urgency propelled her. She frantically flipped through brittle, ancient pages detailing high-level dark sorcery used against royal lines. With every page turn, Aria's breath caught. The truth she was seeking was far worse than she imagined. And then she found it. A section on the sacrificial twin curse. The ancient text explained that to truly annihilate a royal lineage, the curse would often bind the life force of the intended victim to their most potent unclaimed offspring. A cold, horrifying certainty washed over her. Just like that, everything changed. The text confirmed the bloodbound curse link. If Kael Thornbane, the Alpha King, died, the magical link would instantly sever the life force of his son. Killing Kael would kill their child. Aria gasped, pressing a trembling hand to her mouth to stifle a cry. Her world tilted. Her entire strategy was worthless. She was no longer just a healer or a fugitive. She was a shield. The evidence of her son's recent volatile power confirmed the link. The curse had sought to destroy the heir through the father, and the father through the curse. A powerful, protective rage surged through her. That's why Valerius was so calm. He wasn't just trying to kill Kael. He was trying to destroy the entire line, heir included. Aria looked at the dusty scroll, her gaze hardening with cold, sharp resolution. Her ultimate goal fundamentally shifted. She must preserve the life of the man who rejected her to save her son. The stakes were now terrifyingly personal. Chapter 11. The public display. Aria wasted no time. She couldn't operate in the shadows anymore. She needed public, undeniable displays of Kael's stability to counter the antagonist's influence. Come morning, Aria forced Kael, still weakened but cooperative, to preside over a minor court session in the Great Hall. The hall was packed with hostile elders and curious pack members. Valerius was there, his expression one of smug anticipation. Aria stood close to Kael, discreetly feeding small bursts of Luna energy into his wrist, keeping his gold eyes clear and his voice strong. A single glance between her and Kael communicated control, competence, and a shared secret. Kael, following her subtle cues, delivered a powerful decree on border defense, his voice echoing with his old, regal authority. The tension broke only when the elders grudgingly submitted. Aria knew this public victory would fuel the antagonist's next, more direct attack. She pulled Kael aside immediately after the session into a shadowed corridor near his private armory. "They will move against the source now," Aria stated, her voice tight. "My son. They know I am the only one capable of keeping you alive, which meant the most effective way to eliminate me is to eliminate my weakness." Kael, focused and clearer than he had been in weeks, immediately understood. "I need you to send your most trusted, most loyal guard," Aria insisted, locking eyes with him. "Not Alaric, someone who lives by your old honor. Send them to the Whispering Hollows. They are not to interfere with my son's life, but they are to be the wall between him and this court." The moment their eyes locked, Kael saw the full force of her protective rage. "Consider it done," Kael commanded, his voice deep and absolute. He moved with decisiveness when the facts were clear. In the stillness that followed, Kael placed his hand on the back of Aria's neck, a slow, possessive gesture. "You fight for me as if your life depends on it, Luna. Now you tell me I owe you a life debt. I will pay it." Aria did not pull away. The contact was a volatile mix of the bond, gratitude, and simmering desire. She had successfully made her move. The war was no longer about escaping. It was about protecting the entire family unit from the inside. Chapter 12. The Covert Alliance. The Citadel felt like a coiled spring. Aria knew the antagonist, Lord Valerius, was planning his next move. She couldn't fight a political war alone. That night, Aria climbed to the old, wind-whipped watchtower, arranging a covert meeting with the few loyal former allies Kael's memory loss had sidelined. 3 weary but trustworthy pack members arrived. "You've been betrayed," Aria stated, her voice quiet but sharp. She immediately revealed the existence of the dark curse. The king's instability is magic, not madness. Lord Valerius has been feeding the kingdom poison for years. She revealed her purpose was to find the true cure, the ancient scroll of the sun and shadow, to break the magic permanently. She needed their resources, codes, paths, and silence. They pledged their loyalty quickly. Aria had fully committed to the war for the throne. Soon after, Kael arrived, expecting his healer. He was furious about the covert meeting, but when he saw the loyalty in the men's eyes, his anger cooled. "You're playing games, Luna," he accused, dismissing the allies. "Dangerous games." "Your enemies aren't playing games, Kael. They are placing bombs," Aria retorted. The familiar fierce attraction now blended with mutual respect. Without another word, Aria pulled out the maps she'd been studying. Kael leaned over her shoulder, his scent of cedar and stone surrounding her, powerful and intoxicating. His proximity was a danger unto itself. The moment their eyes locked, the tension of weeks of close quarters, high stakes, and undeniable longing broke. He didn't remember loving her, but his wolf knew her. Kael reached out, running a large, rough thumb over the ridge of her cheekbone. "Why did you truly come back, Aria?" he whispered, his voice deep and raw. Aria couldn't answer the complex truth. She stood on her toes and pressed her mouth against his, channeling the fierce loyalty and desperate fear she felt into a single, devastating, non-magical kiss. It was a kiss of shared survival and undeniable mate bond fire. As fire bloomed beneath her skin, Kael seized her, the touch erupting into mutual starved desire. The world outside the watchtower, the betrayal, the curse, vanished. Chapter 13. The Serpent Strikes. Come morning, the consequences of Aria's commitment hit hard. Lord Valerius launched a calculated public failure of the Citadel's outer defenses. The attack, orchestrated by mercenaries and dark magic, wasn't meant to win a war, but to frame Kael's instability. "He is unfit," Valerius shouted to the pack, pointing at Kael, whose power was sputtering due to the psychic strain. The chaos immediately triggered Kael's residual memory trauma, paralyzing him with indecision. "Kael, focus!" Aria yelled, grabbing his arm and pulling him toward the tactical maps. He needed her strategic mind, not his raw strength. "The attack isn't the threat, it's the distraction. Go right, secure the north gate. I will draw the remaining energy from the center." Kael was forced to trust Aria's non-alpha judgment entirely. He nodded once, the kingly mask falling back into place, and rushed toward the north gate. Aria used the chaos to slip away. She knew Valerius would use this moment of distraction to secure his dark magic resources. She felt it, a pull toward a hidden vault beneath the Citadel's oldest chapel. Inside the vault, she found not gold, but a hidden magical ledger. It was filled with Valerius's transactions and contracts, irrefutable proof of his knowledge of ancient dark magic. This discovery secured the evidence needed to defeat the antagonist. As the truth unraveled from the cryptic words, Aria saw that the antagonist's plan was centered on eliminating the entire line. The fear was palpable. She knew what she had to do next, even if it meant risking everything. Chapter 14. The Final Truth. The adrenaline of the battle faded, leaving Kael exhausted and leaning heavily against a map table. Aria knew the moment to act was now. "We need to talk about the curse," Aria said, her voice steady despite the seismic shift she was about to cause. Kael braced himself. "The scroll? We search at dawn. I've alerted the guards you requested for the hollows, because I trust your judgment on threats." "It's not enough," Aria insisted, stepping close. She took his large, scarred hands in hers, forcing him to look at her. Not the healer, but the woman he had abandoned. "The curse is tied to your bloodline, Kael. It was designed to ensure that if you die, your line dies with you." She took a deep, steadying breath, preparing for the devastating impact of her words. "Kael, 10 years ago, when you rejected me, I was already pregnant. We have a son." She let the simple, shattering statement hang in the air. Kael went white, his golden eyes wide with shock, confusion, and a flash of fierce joy he couldn't place. He tried to speak, but no sound came out. Aria pressed on, knowing the urgency outweighed his shock. "He is 10. He is powerful. He is the target of the curse. If you die, the bloodbound curse link will ensure his death too." Just like that, everything changed. Kael's identity, king, cursed mate, predator, was suddenly eclipsed by the raw, undeniable reality of fatherhood. The depth of the betrayal that stole his memory, his love, and his son hit him like a physical blow. Kael roared, a sound that was half pain, half animalistic fury at the injustice. He didn't question her truth. His mate bond and his newly cleared mind confirmed it instantly. The fury receded, replaced by a quiet, absolute resolve. He pulled Aria into a tight, possessive embrace, resting his chin on her hair. "No more running, Luna," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. The Alpha King transformed. He was no longer fighting for his crown, he was fighting for his child. We fight for him. We fight for all of us. No turning back now. They were locked into a critical, deeply personal juncture, pushing the action toward the climax. Chapter 15. The unstoppable blow. The wind shifted, bringing a sick, metallic smell that wasn't blood, but failure. Aria felt it immediately. The protective guard Kael had sent to the Whispering Hollows was down. "Elian!" she gasped, the single name a punch of terror. The antagonist, Lord Valerius, had acted. Kael surged forward, his royal blood roaring with pure alpha instinct. "We move now," he commanded, radiating fierce, terrifying power. Aria tried to contain him. "Wait! It's a trap! Your power is their target!" But Kael's fury propelled him. He attempted to use his pure royal bloodline power to create a protective barrier around the Citadel, a desperate act to defend his family. The curse, triggered by the proximity of the captured son, backfired with devastating speed. A wave of crushing, dark magic, Valerius's response, smashed into Kael's wolf psyche. Kael screamed, a raw, inhuman sound of torment and violation. He staggered backward, clutching his head, his golden eyes flickering wildly. "The curse!" Aria yelled, rushing to him. The antagonist was using Elian as a living anchor to drag Kael into oblivion. Just like that, everything changed. Kael collapsed, falling hard onto the stone floor. He was no longer the imposing Alpha King. He was a dying man. Kael's life force rapidly pulling him toward death. Aria stared at Kael's still form, then at the open map showing the distance to the hollows. She felt it, clear as day. Valerius had won the first round. All of Kael's power had failed. Aria's distrust of power and connection flared up, screaming, "This is why you left. Power always leads to loss." Chapter 16. The Voice of Betrayal. The Citadel fell silent. Lord Valerius strolled into the infirmary, his presence an insult to Aria's desperate healing efforts. Aria was focused on Kael, desperately trying to stabilize his fading pulse with soft, gentle Luna energy. The energy barely registered. Valerius paused beside Kael's cot. "A shame," he murmured. "The royal line ends not in battle, but in a healer's bed." "He is not dead," Aria hissed, her voice ragged. Valerius turned his attention entirely to her. No, not yet. But the bond is strong. The boy is the perfect, concentrated life force. We simply needed leverage. You see, Aria, this is your fault. Your weakness is your child. He moved closer, his breath cold against her ear. And speaking of weakness, do you truly believe his rejection was just the curse stealing his memory? My magic only needed a nudge, healer. I fed him the suggestion of rejection just as he learned you were pregnant. It wasn't the curse, it was a simple act of cruelty. Just like that, everything changed. The antagonist's words were a knife twist, confirming that the pain of her past was a deliberate, tailored act of betrayal. Her internal flaw was brutally confirmed. Her attempts at love and connection always resulted in destruction. The ritual begins in an hour, Valerius continued, moving to the window. I will permanently sever the bloodbound link, killing the boy, and then taking the king's essence for my own. Valerius snapped his fingers, and his guards brought in a spectral image. Elian, standing terrified in a ritual circle, his small body radiating the potent silver-flecked power that was slowly draining. Kael, briefly roused by the image of his son, let out a moan of defeat. I failed, he whispered, his eyes glazing over. Aria looked at Kael's defeated, dying form, and then at the spectral image of her son. It was hopeless. Chapter 17. The Crucible of Self-Reliance. Aria slid down to the cold floor next to Kael's cot. She cradled his head in her lap, feeling the feverish heat beneath his skin. His wolf was fading, replaced by a terrible stillness. I tried to love. I tried to trust his power. And look what it cost us. This was the all is lost moment. Her efforts to save Kael had only led to the ultimate loss. Aria's internal flaw was confirmed. Power and connection always lead to abandonment and destruction. Even so, a quiet, fierce resolve began to stir beneath the despair. If power always fails, then I will rely on myself alone. She felt it, the understanding that only her core strength, her unaided Luna power, remained. I will save my son. She leaned down, pressing her forehead against Kael's. Before the words left her lips, she whispered a raw, painful confession of her love, the truth she had guarded for 10 years. I came back because I never stopped loving the man in that journal, Kael. Forgive me for hating the king. As the bond pulsed with that confession, something miraculous happened. Kael's dying wolf, sensing the pure, unadulterated love, momentarily quieted. And with that calm, a final, crucial truth flashed into Aria's mind. The curse was anchored to Kael's throne, to his political power, not his life. Just like that, everything changed. The curse could only be broken by a willing sacrifice of power, not a fight of strength. The crucible moment was complete. Now, she had a plan. Chapter 18. The King's Pact. Aria felt the cool, quiet truth bloom in her mind. The curse was anchored to the throne. The key wasn't to fight the Alpha King's death, but to destroy his kingship willingly. Aria leaned over Kael, whose heart was beating a slow, unsteady rhythm. She gathered her Luna energy, concentrating her power not to heal, but to force consciousness. Kael, listen to me, she commanded, pushing a sharp spike of energy into his chest. Kael gasped, his eyes flying open, glazed with pain and confusion. Aria. I failed. He has Elian, he croaked out. You haven't failed yet. You have the cure, Kael, she whispered urgently, her hands clutching his face. The curse can only be broken by true sacrifice. You have to give up your power. You have to sacrifice the crown. Instead of protesting, Kael looked at her, his golden eyes clearing, understanding dawning. He saw the path. Give up the throne, Kael muttered, the power of the idea settling over him. For a man who had lived only by his rank, this was the greatest surrender. Yes, Aria insisted. The dark magic relied on the ancient laws of blood, right, and dominance. If you renounce the throne, if you sacrifice your claim, the curse has nothing to anchor to. Valerius's power will collapse. Kael nodded. It was a painful, willing surrender, born not of weakness, but of love. I agree, Kael vowed, his voice a tight whisper. We do this, Luna. For him. For us. Aria pushed one last deep wave of Luna energy into his heart, enough to keep his wolf functional, barely. Valerius is waiting for you to fight him like a king. You will walk in as a man offering everything up, Aria told him, already running for the door. We meet in the ritual chamber in 15 minutes. Chapter 19. The final charge, Aria sprinted to the loyal allies. Kael was already up, using his last reserves of energy to steady himself. The plan has changed, Aria commanded, her voice fierce and low. Kael must reach the ritual chamber alone, but he needs a window. You two create a diversion in the West Wing. Make them think he's leading an army there. The allies didn't hesitate. Aria gripped Kael's hand one last time in the dark corridor. He was pale, sweating, his massive body barely holding its form. Still, his eyes were clear, focused entirely on her. This is it, Kael, she whispered, her voice trembling. If you are late, I am lost. I will not be late, Kael promised, his deep voice carrying the weight of his true sacrifice. She leaned in, giving him a final, fierce kiss, a desperate plea for survival. Kael broke the embrace, pain etching every line on his face. He placed his hands on the massive stone door leading toward the ritual chamber's back entrance. Kael used his pure royal bloodline power to forcibly clear the path, not fighting, but creating an invisible shockwave that shoved guards aside and jammed locks, costing him precious life energy. He was emptying his reserves, becoming the sacrifice. Aria watched him go, tears blurring her vision, before turning to follow the chaotic sounds of the diversion. She had to stall Valerius. She had to keep Elian alive until the king could destroy his own throne. Chapter 20. The Abyss. Aria burst through the secondary door, her heart hammering against her ribs. The chamber was cavernous and cold, lit by flickering green flames. In the center, on a slab of dark stone, was Elian, eyes wide with terror, his small body radiating the potent, silver-flecked power that Valerius was slowly draining. Valerius stood over the boy, cloaked in robes of midnight blue, his face a mask of smug victory. You're late, healer, Valerius sneered, turning slowly to face her. He gestured to Elian. The heir is almost ready. This final act eliminates your power, your child, and the king's entire line in one neat sweep. The king is coming for you, Aria warned, trying to distract the antagonist. Her voice trembled with resolve and fear. Valerius laughed, a cruel, dry sound. Let him come. The weaker he is, the stronger the curse binds the boy. Your distrust of power was always your downfall, Aria. You chose this place, you chose his power, and now you pay the price. You are wrong, Aria insisted, stepping forward, ignoring the dark magic burning her skin. You didn't just curse Kael. You created a loophole. You tied the throne to his life, believing he would never give it up. Valerius's eyes narrowed, a flicker of genuine surprise crossing his face. The main chamber door, massive, iron-bound, flew inward with a deafening crash. Kael stood there. He was ragged, bleeding, his breathing heavy, but his golden eyes burned with absolute, focused love and intent. He had arrived. The antagonist unleashes a wave of dark magic at Kael, ready for the final, brutal fight. Aria locked eyes with Kael. The time for fighting was over. Now, the true sacrifice begins. Chapter 21. The Power of True Sacrifice. Climax. The antagonist unleashes a wave of dark magic toward Kael. The king doesn't raise a defense. Instead, he ignores the power that seeks to tear him apart. He walks past Valerius's sneering face, his eyes fixed only on Aria and Elian. You came to fight, King, Valerius screamed, his voice cracking with fury. I came to pay a price, Kael replied, his voice strained but absolute. Aria rushed forward, placing herself between Kael and the antagonist's magic. She was not fighting Valerius, she was fighting the curse itself. She placed her hands on the cold stone altar, channeling her Luna healer gift, stabilizing the bloodbound link with every ounce of her will to keep Elian alive for the crucial moment. Kael stood at the edge of the ritual circle. He looked at Elian, his son, the one he never knew, and then at Aria, his mate, the truth of their love finally whole in his restored eyes. Just like that, everything changed. Kael raised his head. He didn't draw a weapon. He didn't transform. He spoke the words of the ancient renunciation, a forbidden ritual that stripped an Alpha King of his political authority, his title, and his claim to the throne. I, Kael Thornbane, Alpha King of the Obsidian Citadel, renounce my claim, my crown, and the power that binds me to this lineage. The sound was a profound, resonant vibration. A catastrophic implosion of magic followed. Valerius, who had built his power entirely on exploiting the rules of the royal bloodline, screamed as the source of his ambition dissolved. The curse, finding no anchor, no political power to cling to, severed cleanly. The green flames died. Valerius, now just an old man with ambition, collapsed into ash. Conflict resolved. Kael's act of true sacrifice had saved them all. Aria's internal flaw was permanently overcome by Kael's ultimate act of selfless love. Kael collapsed, his massive body hitting the stone floor with a final, heavy sound. His eyes were clear, and his memories returned, whole and agonizing. The dark magic dissipated into dust. Chapter 22. The Truth and the Offering, Falling. Chapter 23. A New Equilibrium. Resolution. Aria accepted the crown. She felt it, the immense responsibility, but also the earned right to stand beside the man who had proved his love through true sacrifice. Her first act as co-ruler was not to sit on the throne, but to destroy the documents that upheld the old ways. Kael and Aria gathered the remaining loyal elders, presenting the new mandate. The curse fed on the tyranny of the old laws, the absolute power of the Alpha bloodline, Aria declared, her voice strong and unwavering. We will rewrite the ancient laws. The Alpha King and Luna Queen will rule in equality, their power balanced and earned by merit, not mere blood right. Their son, Elian, was introduced not as a threatened secret, but as the strong, celebrated heir of a new era. The final image. Aria and Kael stand together on the dais. Aria wears a simple, elegant crown that signifies power shared, not power controlled. Kael stands beside her, his hand resting securely on her waist. Their eyes meet. No more shadows, no more secrets. 6 months later. Elian trains openly in the Citadel's courtyard, his silver-flecked power now harnessed and understood. Aria and Kael watch, their hands clasped. The 10 years of memory loss gave me the chance to prove my love through choice rather than mere bond, Kael murmurs. kissing Aria's temple. It's stronger now because it was chosen when I had nothing. They have opened the Citadel to new, progressive healers and leaders. Aria now wears a crown that signifies power shared, not power controlled. She looks up at Kael, her heart full, her distrust of power finally healed by the man who willingly gave up everything for her. Our reign will be built on the truth, Aria says simply. The truth of what we sacrificed and what we found. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to this channel for more stories, and also don't forget to hit the like button.